that had troubled them. So, I mean, that can be very, very helpful to have that well documented. And in fact, you know, for some men to just come back in as a check-in on occasion is fine, because it sort of reinforces where they've gone. And it's likely, you know, that and normal that people will feel like they've dealt with it, and then something happens along their journey, years later, months later, when they felt they've moved on from something, or felt they're in that they're okay on their own with it, that they need to check back in. I think it's about a balance of not having this sort of endless sort of cycle where men feel that they're dependent, but also that they have some opportunity to check back in, or some resources to call on to move that forward.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm just looking at some questions come in. I know Ellie started with a question around cross-cultural context, and I know that you've worked in there was that basically in the world, and this is this is part of that sort of, and this work's kind of present for you when you go into those areas sometimes. Is there anything you want to say cross-cultural before you move to maybe Heidi's question, and just give a tick and thumbs up to Murad's and stuff?
Sure. I mean, I think the cultural issues are really important. I want to say this on a couple of levels. I mean, I think so much of the research that we have done and what's known is, you know, predominantly dealt with men in a fairly Western frame, and I think, you know, for example, having worked in contexts in Islamic context, for example, where, you know, there can be other risks and factors that are even much more extreme about someone's life if they were to disclose sexual abuse, because of how the action is viewed by others. And so it is really important to be aware of those factors in terms of different cultural, religious and ethnic backgrounds. And I think there's other factors in here too about how organisations that are supporting cultural and ethnic and religious views can be engaged with about these sorts of issues. And certainly in working in the developing world, I've been people have said, oh, you know, raising child sexual abuse in Pakistan, you know, you won't get anywhere. Well, actually, we've got some very surprising places in terms of people's awareness and willingness to engage with these issues. It's how you do it at a community level and with the key players, not so much thinking you have to go underground with this. So, but being careful. So I think the cultural stuff is really important, particularly I think as Australia sort of cultural demographics are always changing, and people coming from places where we know that sexual violence is very prevalent. The next question from Murad is, thanks, great talk. I help run a support group called Mars for men who have been sexually abused and raped. I was wondering whether I would be able to quote some of your work in my university assignments. I will obviously cite your work correctly. One of my essays will be on this subject. Yeah, no problem at all. That's fine. I can send you through the references if you like. I'm not sure how I can do that on this thing, but if you give me your email, I can send you some of the articles that highlight some of the work that I've talked about today.
Patrick, this last question is by Heidi, which is quite interesting because the show, the Oprah show, which was 200 men standing up and naming sexual abuse or their experience of it, which aired in Australia about a month ago now. And the question, one of the things is, you know, who is the public figure? How do we develop the awareness around this stuff? I know, you know, you've done talk and you do public talks, and I do, you know, in some ways, but are there other avenues? I mean, because I do have ongoing concerns about having men name up, you know, always being almost required to publicly disclose their own histories. And that's often done with them in shadows and in them in, and also it leaves those men in a very difficult place afterwards if they're not, you know, don't already have a secure public identity or aren't really travelling very, very, very well in their lives.
Yeah, I didn't quite, I must have missed Heidi's question, did I? Can you hear me still?
Sorry, Patrick, you said Heidi, you asked, you know, like Oprah, what type of person is it we need to engage with the nations or raising awareness? That was her question, was about how do we get this in the public agenda? I mean, you do the research, all the evidence is there. We haven't got the Oprah here, and how do we do that?
Yeah, and I think one of the issues here is too, and UK, Australia are a bit similar on this, is the sort of American culture around therapy and talking about these issues is a bit different. And the way that we actually engage also at a political level with this perhaps is really important, and I think putting it on the agenda with key community leaders is perhaps something that has really lacked. And if we take a lot of lessons from, you know, women's movements, work on domestic violence and sexual assault, that was really politicised the issue and made it a public health issue that actually costs money and costs lives. You know, tends to change the format of the discussion and the responsibility on a group of men to somehow just simply disclose information and sort of be out there in the public sphere to be critiqued. If it's on the political agenda, I think it changes where the responsibility sometimes lies. I don't know, what do other people think?
There's a ton of people talking now, Patrick, so that's good. I am aware that Patrick has to leave in about 10-15 minutes, so we will be looking to wrap it up very soon, because I know he has other meetings. But please, we'll like to have the opportunity for you to ask those final questions or pose those final questions. Hi Patrick, how about I give you a rest and I read this question?
Okay,
right?
Great.
That was just an early saying. Thanks, Patrick. I liked your comment. You know, humanity is present in all human cultures, really isn't it? So it's important that we change the assumptions that some places are more or less open to exploring this issue. I've enjoyed the presentation. I've just begun to work in the organisation that supports people with intellectual disabilities, and I know that service is wild here in Brisbane, and it's a great service, so that's really important. At the moment, we only have to provide counselling services for women, and I know they're looking to provide that support for men with learning disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And I suppose what Patrick and I are very much aware of is the stats for that group of men is often very high. 80–90% of those men would have experienced sexual abuse or unwanted sexual contact. Stuart said, I think developing a presence on the internet is a good start, like the Living Well website and on Facebook. Well done with that.
Yeah.
So that's really important for us to know that it's a way that men who maybe don't have any access to counselling or support, or live in small rural communities where knowing this stuff could cause problems for them, or people might start to not be as helpful as we would like them to be. That's a really important thing for us. I think Marad came in, and Heidi said she found my friends with young sons are most interested in this subject, asking them to help. Just curious if you find that as well. It's a difficult subject, Heidi. Patrick, do you have any comments? Both of us have young sons, Patrick. Do you want to comment on Heidi?
Yeah, sure. I think it's an issue there that is always about parenting. You know certain things about the world, but you don't want to wrap kids in cotton wool either. And I think people are much more aware of this issue than they were previously, but there's still a lot of misunderstanding. And I mean, one of the interesting things in some of the other research emerging about actual risk factors for children is that we know, for example, girls, this is an interesting thing, is girls are far more unsafe in their home, and statistically, and boys are more unsafe outside their home. But the gender differentiation there is that we don't so much take as much attention to where boys are going or their outside activities outside the home than girls. And I think some of this might mean some rethinking about how we parent boys. There's a real debate in the UK at the moment about sex education for kids. And I think this engages a whole range of people, saying that if we inform 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds about basic sexual education, some people are arguing this makes children more vulnerable. Although the bulk of evidence suggests that the opposite is true. This still has some important implications about how we actually put protective behaviours in place in schools and at home, how we talk about parts of your body, without it becoming it is a balance of it. How do we make it a process for children where they are protected but not, without creating other issues, if you know what I mean.
Okay, I think that's it. I mean, thanks so much, Patrick, because I'm kind of aware as well. That group of boys, particularly, that we often don't hear as much about, and probably people aren't concerned about, is that early teenage years when they are out and about and sort of looking at the world. And those are often the young boys who are most invested in the sort of masculinity and looking after themselves and being seen as able to cope. And in that sense, is that they're the ones that are least likely to come forward or name these experiences. So it is a question of looking at this and looking at both the similarities and differences with girls and boys. So, Patrick, thank you very much for spending, because you've gone over time. I know you're a busy man.
No problem, I've enjoyed it.
Soon. Good. And just to let people know that we will be doing another one of these. I think about the 16th of June I've committed to. So thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you everybody for attending, and please take care.
Thank you.